What's up everybody, Super Duper fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2005 Infiniti G35 Coupe. Huge thanks to Brad and all the guys at Harrison Auto Sales for hooking me up with this very cool car to review for you guys today. So about the Infiniti G35 Coupes, well, you know, this is a 10-year-old car, but I still think that these are so beautiful. Every time I see one, I'm like, wow, that's a good looking car, especially from the front. Just so elegant and kind of timeless in the way that it's designed. And I just think it looks really slick. And you know, obviously being based on the Nissan 350Z, these are a little bit longer with the back seat and whatnot, but it's just got really nice proportions in the back end. You know, has the LED taillights and just a very cool looking design still. Even 10 years later, I'm kind of amazed at just how good this car still looks. Whereas for the interior of the Infiniti G35 Coupe, first things first, getting in this car, pretty solid doors, not the best out there, but they're good. And anyway, you sit down in these seats, and they're on the comfortable side. They're not very aggressive enthusiast seats, although the thigh bolstering is very nice. And I mean, I guess there just could be a little more torso support. They're not very large bolsters, and I mean, you know, it's not like the seat's too wide. It's just I wish there was a thicker bolster, and there isn't. But they are very comfortable, and they're great for just, you know, relaxing. And I think, you know, that's the whole thing about the Infiniti G35 Coupe, is since it is based on the 350Z, if you want, you know, all-out enthusiast car, the 350Z is probably going to be the better choice. But, you know, this is definitely a, you know, more comfortable feel, but it still has the same great driving position as the 350Z. It's a slightly, a little bit higher up, but aside from that, I mean, it's a very just, I don't know, the way these cars drive, they're just the right size, and you can feel that just as soon as you sit down in it. Just, you know, you can see out very well and everything. But anyway, I'm kind of running off on a tangent here. So seats are pretty good. They're very soft and comfy too, by the way. Next is the steering wheel, which is really nice. You know, just basic leather wrapped, has good 10 and 2 notches, good 9 and 3 grip, and that's all I really ask for in a wheel. You know, it has a few buttons on it, and not too cluttered, and pretty nice wheel. Next is the gauges, which also are, you know, pretty basic, straightforward. You have a gear indicator that's kind of digital in the middle there. Aside from that, standard analog gauges, and yeah, nothing to write home about, but I think they look good and get the job done. Coming along to the center of the dashboard here, there's quite a few things going on. So this is whenever, you know, the navigation systems and stuff were still kind of in their infancy as far as how they wanted to design them and use screens in cars. So top of the dashboard, we'll start up there. You have your climate controls, and it'll, you know, show you your vent modes and stuff like that. It also has a very nice little clock in the middle there. And then you come down and you have this screen, which is only for the navigation system. So that just displays your maps and your route, and that's it. It doesn't do anything else. So you have all these individual little screens for the different things the car does. So that's for the navigation. Obviously, it's a little bit dated, being 10 years old, but actually a pretty nice navigation, one of the best at the time. And then coming down to the climate control buttons and the radio buttons, there's quite a few of them on here. It's slightly confusing, but it's not too bad. And but again, you have a separate screen down here for the Bose audio system, you know, with its CD changer and whatnot, and it's a very old school kind of little basic readout there, and that's all that you have. So it's just, you know, you think they could have incorporated the audio stuff into the screen or the climate control stuff into the screen, but, you know, they kind of kept it all separate, which I think does simplify it, but complicate it at the same time. It just comes down to personal preference, though, honestly. Speaking of personal preference, you might have noticed all the wood trim in this car, which is not the way that this came. Normally it has like a brushed metal kind of look to it. The previous owner of this car overlaid this wood inserts on the dash and stuff like that. That was just his personal taste, but that won't be on all Infiniti G35 Coupes, so just be you know, be mindful of that whenever you're going to look for one and stuff like that. That's something you can do aftermarket, but that's not normal Infiniti G35 stuff. As far as storage space goes in the G35, nothing crazy, but not too bad either. So you have map pockets here on the doors that have some type of bottle holder, but it's still pretty small. Not sure how well that will actually work. Then you have a tiny little ashtray here under the audio controls. And then you have your two cup holders here in the middle, which are also on the small side, but they do kind of fold away so you can make them larger if need be. And then you have this center console, which is fairly shallow. It has a little removable tray. But this center console is very nice and soft with its padding. But like you can see, I'm kind of rattling this. It's a little loose. And that also goes for the cup holder cover here. It's also kind of loose and cheap. So, you know, I don't know if that's just from being 10 years old or if that's the way it was brand new. But, you know, not totally wowed by the build quality on some of the stuff in here. But, like I said, I think I'm going to cut it a break because it is 10 years old after all. And it's held up really well. This one, as you can see, has less than 22,000 miles on it, which is amazing for a 10-year-old car. So this one's in pretty mint condition. So, yeah, I mean, it's overall a very nice interior, and I like it a lot. Trunk space in this car is, you know, actually on the small side. There's not a whole lot of room. They have a little diagram on how to fit golf bags in there, so it is possible, but really not a roomy trunk, to be perfectly honest, and, you know, could have been a whole lot better. But I mean, one nice thing about this car is it does have back seats, which the 350Z does not have. So if you'd like any kind of back seats, you obviously have to go with the Infiniti. And they are usable back seats. Now they're not the best out there, but they're certainly not the worst either. And you know, you can fit people back there comfortably. I don't know if I'd put people back there all the time, but in a pinch it works. And yeah, it's good to have a back seat. All right, so start up and go for a drive. You know, standard basic key, of course, 2005, and had the keyless entry. And so yeah, just slip it in and starts right up. One of the best things about the G35s is how they sound. So let's give it a few revs and listen to this sound. All right, so setting off in the 2005 Infiniti G35 Coupe. Well, first thing you notice, of course, this car is an automatic, and you know, I think the manual is probably the enthusiast choice, of course, and the more fun choice, but I'm still curious to see just how well this automatic does. But anyway, I mean, it's very smooth so far, you know, pulling out onto this bumpy park road here, and you know, it's the one thing that is immediately apparent about this car is it's not as comfortable over bumps as I thought it was going to be. You know, normally, I mean, an Infiniti, I would think, is like more luxurious and comfortable, but honestly, this feels just about the same as the 350Z. And, you know, I mean, I wouldn't call it overly harsh, but it is bumpier than most modern cars that I review on this channel, and does not soak up the bumps as well as the others that I've reviewed. But, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's quiet, and like I said, I like the driving position. Visibility is great in this car. You know, you have great rear visibility. Side windows are large, and, you know, like I said, the hood kind of drops down nicely, so you have a very good view forward as well. So it's, you know, it's a very easy car to drive, and like I said, it's just not the best over bumps. Alright, so I'm going to put the car in manual mode here, and we'll shift manually, and let's turn on to this back right here and see how it does. It's quick, man. So we're dealing with 280 horsepower and 270 pounds-feet of torque, and I mean, in this car, it gets up and moves it well, I gotta say, and it sounds so good. It's the 3.5 liter V6 engine, and it's the VQ series, like the you know, same exact motor as the 350Z. And coming up some corners here, and it actually handles them really well. So the steering weight is really great. It's got a nice heavy weight to it, and feels pretty sharp actually. Not the sharpest, but pretty good. And yeah, I mean, it's very flat and handles better than I thought. So coming up this tight corner I always take, let's see about this body roll. Yeah, it's pretty good, I gotta say. Wow, for some reason I thought this wouldn't be nearly as good as the 350Z, and I mean, this isn't quite as sharp as the 350Z, that's one thing for sure. It's not as sharp, but it still does feel very good. Let's see about this power again, shall we? That's quick. I mean, it's not going to knock your socks off, but it's enough to have fun with, and it's clearly enough to get you up and going plenty fast enough. And so, yeah, it's a great car, and it still does it all with a lot of comfort. I mean, you know, over bumps it is rough, but now that I'm just cruising along on this main road here, I mean, yeah, it could be a more refined ride, and it's not. That's the one thing. I figured that this would be really comfy just cruising, but I can still feel every groove in the road, just like I do in the 350Z. So, you know, seats are a little more comfortable. I'd say there's a little more sound deadening in here, but otherwise the ride feels really similar and just as rough as the 350Z. But I'm going to drive this car around for a while longer here, and I'll come back and give you some updated impressions. Alright, so I'm driving this car for a little while longer here, and it's not a bad car. I'm not wowed by it, but I mean, it is a good car. So one of the first things I didn't mention a whole lot yet is this transmission, which you know, it's this typical 5-speed automatic that you can shift manually with the Tiptronic kind of slapstick kind of thing over here on the center here, and it's pretty good. You know, it's about as good as any of the other ones were during this time period. It shifts about as quick as you could if you were shifting manually yourself, you know, with a normal manual transmission. And, you know, I mean, it does what you ask it to do, and it does it pretty quickly, too. I mean, like, upshift and it upshifts, downshift and it downshifts. So there's a little bit of a delay there, but it does do it, you know, fairly quickly. And I gotta say that, you know, for those that do want to enjoy manual transmission driving without the clutch pedal, this isn't bad. There's been a lot worse automatics that I've driven with manual shifting, and this one, especially for being 10 years old, it's pretty snappy. I gotta give it to it. It's pretty good. One thing that isn't very good though is the brakes. I mean, they're not awful. I mean, they stop the car sufficiently, but they're not the sportiest. The feel isn't really there, and it's kind of just brakes. You know, they're not outstanding as performance brakes or anything. But good news, if you can find one, it was an option back then to get a Brembo package on the Infiniti G35s. So if you're looking to, you know, do some aggressive driving, I would suggest that Brembo package for sure, with the beefier brakes. And I think it also has a sport tune suspension with the Brembo package too, so it'd be a little bit of a better handler. But this still, I mean, handles really well. That's actually one of the things I can't really complain about, is the handling is really good. You know, overall, I'm pretty impressed with it. Like I said, I mean, really, what other options do you have if you're looking for, you know, something that was built in the mid-2000s that's a luxury coupe? There's really not a whole lot out there, and not a lot of them are rear-wheel drive. Most of them aren't, and so, you know, there's very little competition for something like this, and I think it's a very cool market that should be used more often. There's not too many people out there making luxury coupes that are sporty, and now you have more with, you know, Cadillac and Lexus and all these other guys, but for a while there, I mean, this car didn't have much competition. But yeah, I mean, it's a really great car. Like I said, I'm not wowed by it like I was with the 350Z. That car the 350Z has a little bit of magic. It's kind of indescribable, but it has an extra something. It kind of has a little more soul than this car does, in my opinion, and other stuff that, I mean, this is a perfectly fine car. Just to me, it's not as exciting to drive as a 350Z, and that's not just because this is an automatic. I think that even the manual, it'd be the same kind of deal. You don't feel quite as connected to the driving experience as you do in the 350Z, but if you want something a little more luxurious, I'd say this is probably, you know, it's like I said, you do have a much nicer interior in this car. The seats are much more comfortable, all that kind of stuff, but the ride is still kind of harsh, and that's one of the things. That's kind of how it's a mixed bag. You know, this is a luxury coupe, but it doesn't feel very luxurious in its ride qualities, but it is a good car. So, but yeah, I just want to give a huge thanks to Harrison Auto Sales for hooking me up with this car to review for you guys again. And this one is available on their lot, so if you want it, I mean, where else are you going to find an Infiniti G35 Coupe with 22,000 miles on it? I don't think you're going to have too much luck. This is probably the lowest mileage one for sale in the country, and yeah, it's a gem. These are great cars, and I'm glad to finally be able to drive one. And I know many of you have been asking for a review of one, so I'm glad to be able to review one for you guys here. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Infiniti G35. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.